on network security and cryptography. She has also chaired various international conferences. Akanksha ji, the next session, and I welcome both the speakers. Mr. Karthik Sharma, I can see you. Yes, Mr. Karthik, you're most welcome here, sir. And we also have our alumni, Mr. Japneet Singh Chawla.
Thank you, Devesh sir. Thank you so much.
Akanksha ji, all over to you. Yes.
Thank you so much. And again, a very warm welcome to all of you present here, the faculty members, students, and both the panelists present here. A very warm, I can still see there are 3 minutes. So it's a good morning for all of us right now. I would take this opportunity to welcome our first technical speaker, Mr. Karthik Sharma. Before he starts his technical talk, I would like to give his brief introduction to all of you. Karthik is an emerging technology evangelist, having experience of building disruptive technology products and is having a high-performing product teams. Karthik is an AI practitioner and experiencing of machine learning to develop conventional bots and other RPA-related solutions. He is the co-founder of Decode AI, that is a DIY AI learning platform. He is a member of All-Party Parliamentary Group on Artificial Intelligence and FICCI EdTech Task Force that focuses on using technology in learning processes in India. He's also the member of Institute of Directors and student mentor in the US, UK. Karthik is leadership fellow at prestigious St. George House, Windsor Castle, UK. Karthik is an executive board member of IMA, Young Leaders Council. He was also an academic committee of AI course for Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University. Karthik has written several AI books for class 8 to class 11th. He's the mentor at NASCOM Women Wizard Rule Tech Program. He's also mentor with Atal Innovation Mission of Government of India. He's given guest lectures into multiple colleges and university, prestigious colleges like IIT, ISTD, NIPM, IIM, LSBU London, IMT, and many more to count on. Karthik's paper on AI in workplace was published in Indian Journal of Training and Development, and he's a silver medalist from IIT Roorkee. I would like to welcome you, Karthik. A very warm welcome.
Thank you, Akanksha ji, and thank you, Devesh ji, for having me here.
You can take the session from here, Karthik.
Sure. So would you like me to talk about it, or are there any specific questions? Because I believe I was listening to Vinay ji and the earlier session as well. And I see a lot of students are also part of the conversation. So rather than this being just a one-way session, I would also be happy if any of you have any specific areas which you would like to cover to avoid redundancy and repeating the same content, because I can imagine the worst you can have as a student or a attendee is to hear the same gyan again and again from different set of people, right? So I would request through you, my moderator Kansha ji, if there are any specific themes which are of more interest, which we were probably not covered in the previous session.
Okay, so Karthik, these are all BCA students. These are the Bachelor of Computer Application students, undergraduate students right now. So if you could take it in a flow of towards how information technology or any of the technology, maybe AI or ML is working in today's scenario, or maybe a futuristic approach, what exactly is happening for sustainable environment. So you can take away this session in that order.
Sure. So what I'll probably do is, and how much time do I have, ma'am?
You have ample time, don't worry. You have 40-45 minutes to go ahead.
Sure. So what I'll probably do is break it into two parts. One, I'll talk a little bit about where AI is right now and how AI is getting involved, and then how it is actually helping in some of the SDGs. I'm assuming most of you are aware of UN SDGs. So which SDGs are related to sustainability and climate change, and how AI is actually helping in solving some of those problems. And then, of course, we can cover a little bit around what are the challenges when you begin to use AI in solving these problems. There is a cost to it in terms of the environment impact and the energy impact because of the heavy computational resources which technologies like AI, IoT, and blockchain requires. And then, of course, feel free to stop in between, and wherever you want me to focus more on, happy to do that. So maybe I'll in the for the first part, let me show you a small presentation, and then a PPT visible. Hello, hello.
Yes, Karthik, it is visible.
I'm audible, right? I'm hoping ma'am is here. Yeah. So one is this is a very interesting cartoon, which I don't know if you guys follow Dilbert. So in Dilbert cartoon, this talks about two people are sitting in an office and there is a bot in between, right? And this bot says that I wonder whose job I'll take first. And the one person is saying that you could never do my job, and the other person is looking at it, and the bot says that I'm already doing it, and this person said you're not doing anything, and he said that's right, let that sink in. So although it's a joke, but the larger consequences that most of the work which we are doing, albeit it requires higher cognitive abilities, is also getting automated through AI. And one of the big challenges for somebody like yourself who's right now studying in a educational institution is that by the time you graduate and you enter the workforce, it's going to be extremely complicated for you to be relevant. So I think relevance is the biggest issue right now, which all the developed countries are also facing. Because imagine a world in which you have AI and technologies like assisted technologies to help you do all your work. It can create content. It can let's take any profession, right? For example, let's take the example of HR. Now, typically in HR, you have one of the biggest functions is recruitment or talent acquisition, right? So right now, what happens is the HR person will create a job description, search through relevant candidates in Naukri, Indeed, and all these portals, match the keywords with the CVs, shortlist them, call them, schedule interviews, and then finalize the candidate and release the offer letter. Now with AI and RPA, robotic process automation, what you can do is you can create a flow in which the job description can be templatized using various industries and job roles. Historical data can be fed into a ML system. And you have a JD created. You can publish it automatically using RPA scripts into various portals. Retrieve the CVs from them, do a keyword matching, shortlist the candidates and their CVs, use a calendar tool like Calendly integrated with Zoom, set up a using virtual assistant, block the calendar, set up an interview, send the Zoom invite automatically without any human intervention. On the Zoom interview, the person will come. You can run video analytics using computer vision and understand the content, what they're talking about using NLP algorithms, see their body language, tone, gesticulation, and based on that, shortlist the candidate automatically, send out an offer letter. Offer letter can also be templatized, and the person directly joins you on that day. So if that be the process, what would be the role of a typical talent acquisition manager? If I translate into industry closer to home for you guys, let's say if you're a dev guy, right? As you know, like when I graduated from IIT almost 15 years back, there was a concept of front-end developer, back-end developer, and somebody who understands DevOps and server side, right? But now you have something called as full stack developers. All the companies hire only for full stack devs. They don't need a front-end only or a back-end only developer. And even so, in dev, what is happening right now is you are getting tools through which it can write code on itself. Like in my organization, we use so many Python libraries using AI in which we can create small snippets of code ourselves. I mean, using AI. So we don't need somebody to explicitly code it. So imagine a guy or a girl who studied HTML, CSS 10 years back and is only a front-end developer. There'll be no place for such a developer in next 4 to 5 years. He or she will be completely redundant. And that's the power of some of these technologies, which when we talk about AI, right? Now, the issue is that can you plan for it? One way is to get scared of it. The other is to also pre-plan for it and imagine that this is what's going to happen. You have technologies like GPT-3, GPT-4 is now coming, which can create just by textual conversation, it can create a website or an app on its own. You have Microsoft Azure tools, which is Sketch to HTML. You scribble a website homepage on a piece of paper, upload it in a JPG format, and it will real time give you the HTML code for that. So in that way, that's very liberating because it democratizes, uh, tech entrepreneurs. Because I remember when I was studying in IIT, a lot of my friends who were not from computer science background or who didn't understand tech, they always used to feel constrained that I have a great idea, but I cannot implement because I don't know tech and I don't have budget to hire IT people. So that's the that's a problem which is now solved using AI. And if you talk about the larger opportunity, and then we'll also move into the SDGs bit, is that by 2030, almost $13 trillion, which is more than the combined GDP of the top 5 nations in the world, will be delivered only through AI. So that's the global impact which we're talking about. And the bottom part is extremely important for you as students, is that it's not going to be between, whether we are supporting AI, whether we are pro AI or we are scared of it. It's about people who will know AI versus people who don't know AI. So for example, in that particular instance of HR, which I gave you, somebody who understands that this is how RPA works, this is how now recruitment will happen, and based on that he or she can plan her job role in accordance with that process, will be better off than somebody who says, oh, AI is far off, we'll see when that happens, and he or she is not upskilling themselves. That person will get redundant first. So that's a problem which we need to solve, right? This point is very important for most of you because, as I said, that now most of you will change 10 jobs in your career. I mean, when I was graduating, the average job changes were 2 or 3 maximum, but now 10 job changes will happen in a career. Gig working is happening, work from home is the new normal, and multiple hats are required, like a full stack developer I was talking about. And this is the last slide, and after that I'll get into the SDG conversation. That if you see this, it is being predicted by OPEC that almost 50% of jobs will be replaced by AI in the next 10 years. And it's not only, typically whenever we talk about these conversations, people think, oh, BPO jobs or lower cognitive capability jobs or transactional jobs are getting automated. But with AI, even jobs like coding are getting eliminated. In the last 4 to 5 years, I have seen a significant shift in our organizations wherein we hire people for very specific skills now. Nobody is hiring somebody for just a front end developer or somebody just who can handle a particular database. We are hiring people who can handle the entire mean stack or MERN stack. That's the expectation level now we have from the employees. So that's a big change. So even if you are in tech, a lot of people tell me that since we are in tech and tech is required to create AI, so our future is secure. But that's also no longer the case because we are now in the age of generative AI. So in generative AI, what happens is in stage 1, you create AI, and in stage 2, the AI is creating further AI. So your job is also eliminated in generative AI. And in next 3 to 4 years, most of the large companies like FANG in US or BAT in China, they are all moving to generative AI. So it may so happen that a small company with 2 or 3 architects and senior devs could run a large tech company using an army of generative AI team members. So that's the possibility which is there, right? So I'll stop at this for the first part of the conversation. But the bigger issue is that with this context, what you have to extrapolate now is that, I mean, this is something which is very relevant to you as an individual or as a group of students. But the larger appreciation of technologies like AI is that how we can use it at a global level or how we can use it to solve big problems. I mean, people tend to only talk about employability, or they tend to talk about the career opportunities, or we tend to talk about how AI is being used in our daily lives, like for assistive technologies, or in search engines, or in recommendation based systems. But when we talk about some of the big problems in the world, so big problems in the world, if I break it down to you, are culminated into 17 sustainable development goals, which the United Nations and all the 193 countries have come together, and they have said that there are 17 big problems that need to be solved in the world. Now, I will not bore you with all the 17. It includes poverty, hunger, and whatnot. But relevant to today's discussion and today's theme, there are three SDGs which are extremely important for you to know. One is SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy. The other is SDG 11, which talks about sustainable cities and communities, which in India you might be aware of. We're talking about smart cities. So smart cities by nature have to be sustainable as well. And if you talk about the neo cities which are being developed in Saudi Arabia, for example, they are sustainable cities. Sustainable cities mean that they should have circular economy, and they should be net zero waste. So for example, whatever waste and emissions are created, they should be regenerated, and the net effect on the environment should be zero. So these are all circular cities. This is SDG 7. Third SDG is SDG 13, which is climate change. And you might have heard that climate change is a big problem, which we talk about, and how AI can actually help solve it, right? And here's the dilemma. AI can help solve it as well, and AI is also negatively impacting all these three SDGs. So that's where, you as an individual will need to take a call and think that how do you maintain that balance? Because AI will solve all these problems, and AI will create further problems in all these three SDGs. And that's where the top leaders in the world are grappling, that where do they draw the fine line between the pros and cons of technologies like AI and IoT and blockchain. If I talk about some data points, because we're all engineers here, so it's always nice to talk about data points and not theory. There is a center called National Center for Environmental Information, right, which is part of the broader National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in states. They did an analysis in 2021, and they said that almost 20 weather and climate disasters have happened in the last decade, which includes things to the effect of Katrina, tsunami, and so on and so forth. And the accumulated losses of life, property, and material was close to $1 billion each. So it means that $20 billion annually are being lost due to forest fires in Australia and whatnot, right? So that's a big number, right, when we talk about global. And if we talk about the last 2 decades or so, adjusted for inflation, every year we are having 7 to 7.5 such events annually, which means it's a big problem. And all the three SDGs are contributing to this larger issue of catastrophic losses, both in terms of lives and capital loss. You might have heard, and it's very important because of today's theme, that there was there was a big conference that happened in Paris in 2017, and all the major countries in UN signed on something called as the Paris Climate Accord, in which they said that the entire global Earth climate or the temperature should not increase by 2 degrees by 2050. So all the countries had to submit a detailed action plan that what will they do to make sure that their contribution to the global Earth temperature will ensure that the weighted mean is under 2 degrees. But you will be surprised that there was a study that was done last year which said that this number would anyways be achieved by 2030. So in 2030, we'll be at 2.1 degrees. So this whole Paris discussion goes for a toss, and we don't need to even wait for 2050. In next 7 years, we will not be able to fulfill our promises. So we have actually failed. And that's why this whole big debate by this young Swedish girl, Greta Thunberg, started, that, young children realize that this is all the big sham. Whatever the governments are doing, the reality on the ground is completely different, and we will not be able to achieve that target. So people realize that we are being fooled, right? We have fallen flat on our promises. So that's the problem. So, right, just in terms of setting the context, I wanted you to know. Now, what is contributing to this, right? There are, from a geography perspective, if I may say, as a layman, we can do only limited, right? That's something which is intrinsic to nature, no predict the behavior in nature. But in terms of what is our contribution to all the three SDGs as human races, that we consume a lot of energy, and that energy is, and I'm just taking a very layman approach to this, because I'm not a geologist, or I'm not a scientist, but as a simple engineer, I'm trying to figure out that what is the problem and how we can solve it using AI, and where do we draw the line. Now, the biggest problem in all these SDGs is that climate is getting changed and the average temperature of Earth is getting increased, which leads to a lot of issues with flora and fauna, because people, all these natural ecosystem has been sustained in a certain geographical environment, which gets changed as the temperature of the Earth begins to rise. Now, the biggest issue is that we consume a lot of energy as human beings, and that leads to this problem. Now, if I talk about technologies like AI, IoT, big data, and now metaverse is also being talked about, these global technologies in last year have contributed to almost 6.3% of global emissions. That's a big number. This number used to be under 1% 6 years back. But thanks to increase in crypto and we using AI in smart cities, especially in the Western world, this number has increased from under 1% to 6.3% in less than 6 years. So that's a alarming fact for us, right? The other issue is that if we talk about renewable energy, a lot of you might be wondering that why suddenly there is so much craze around electric cars and why everybody is talking about EV. Many people think it's a propaganda by Elon Musk and whatnot. But the reality is that there was a study done in US in 20, and by end of 2020, which said that by September 2021, we have actually consumed all the renewable sources 100%. And now, since September last year, globally, we are all in deficit. So whatever oil, whatever coal we had to mine, we have mined. Now, obviously, some people are creating synthetic oil, synthetic coal, and whatnot. But all the pure natural resources, as human beings, we have been successful in 100% robbing it out of nature. So we have done a good job in that sense. And that's why now, there is a big push globally to move to electric, because they realize that since we are in deficit by this year, 2022, maximum 2026 or 27, you can still rely on it. And the global prediction is that by 2030, we have to move to a split of almost 40% renewable and 60% non-renewable, which then ultimately reverses the stance by 2035. And by 2050, the target is that we'll have zero dependency on non-renewable sources. So these are some of the numbers to sort of set the context. The other big issue is that not everything is so bad about these technologies. These technologies have also helped in solving the SDGs. Like I was hearing Vinesar as well, and he must have talked about that, how better grid management is now being done using AI, how last mile connectivity, how microgrids are created, how we are reducing losses in the transmission using AI, how the predictive maintenance and the proactive maintenance schedules have been implemented using AI, how we are able to better map the energy requirement of different households at a micro level, and we can save energy through that. How using blockchain and especially smart contracts, maybe using ERC20, how you're able to create better transparency in the agricultural program. So there is a big focus on regenerative agricultural programs, wherein the countries try to incentivize communities to save carbon footprint and be more conscious to the environment by using a combination of regenerative agriculture and conservation on both sense. Then you might have also read about use cases where countries are using AI and machine learning models to get better forecasting in terms of weather condition. And it is so funny and serious at the same time. If you are able to predict weather with reasonable accuracy, so many problems in the world would get solved. Agriculture problem would get solved, losses would get reduced. You can better plan, logistics, which is a big cost. I mean, almost 10% of global GDP is through logistics, right? You are better able to provide healthcare to people because you know who's going to fall sick when. You are better able to plan energy consumption because you know how the weather is going to be. Just because of mismanagement of this, only in US there are almost 6 to 7% of losses just because they are not able to predict the weather perfectly. And you can do a calculation of 6 to 7% on a GDP of US. And for other countries like India, it's not, we don't even have the time to invest in these calculations because we feel it's a waste of time to do this much mathematics. We know we are wasting 10 to 15%. But that's the bigger problem, that how AI and IoT can actually help solve these big issues as well. If any of you also listen to back home in India, in the recent budget speech, the Honorable Finance Minister also talked about that AI is where they want to invest the most because they believe that it would help in sustainable development at scale. So that's the biggest equation which globally people are trying to solve: impact, inclusive impact at scale. And in a country like ours, it would be a blessing, right, if we are able to do that. The last point which I want to talk about is that, so there are three components, right? AI and these assistive technologies can solve these SDGs. Second is there is a cost to it, which you understand in terms of emission, in terms of impact on the global temperature increase, and the larger climate change impact. The third aspect, and don't get me wrong, a lot of companies have already started doing it. Like the big companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, they have already announced their policy, which is a net zero policy, that there'll be net zero emission and they will use sustainable and conscious, environmentally conscious materials in their supply chain. And they are showing their transparency using blockchain right from the source to the end consumer. And the last point which I want to talk about, and then I'll end my session, is that there is a bigger debate also around the ethics and bias of AI. Because all these AI systems typically, as you know, require a lot of data, and data is typically in the world, almost 60% of data is unstructured, only 40% is structured. And that unstructured data is also contributed by human beings like us. And second is that before we go to the stage of generative AI, we are developing AI algorithms which consume this data to be trained. Now, what happens is, while we are doing that, and maybe we have the cleanest of intent to solve a particular problem, which is like climate change, and we create the best algorithm or technically an ensemble of models and use the data set. If in some way, the data has certain bias. Now, bias could, there are 104 cognitive biases. That's another day's discussion. But if any of those cognitive biases get creeped in, imagine the level of impact, or rather reverse impact, it may have at scale. Because in generative AI, it says that by the time we are at third or fourth iteration or epoch of ANN, the biases get amplified 20x minimum. So imagine if you are globally solving a problem of climate change or an SDG, and in some way you got some bias embedded in the system. How will it translate on a global level? It will be impossible to roll back, because once it falls into generative AI, one can only imagine the impact it may have. And that's a bigger problem, that if somebody is able to, bad actors of society, so they say, if they are able to intrude in some way into your solution, then they are able to have a catastrophic effect, which is even worse than the current climate change impact we are having. So I think you should be always conscious about drawing the balance between solving the problem using these technologies, keeping an eye on the emission, carbon footprint, and the environmental impact of these technologies. And third, to make sure that as we move more and more towards the generative AI, we need to be very conscious of the data sets we use, the models we use, and ensure that there is no bias creeping into the system. And we have a close eye on the ethical nuances of our systems. So with this, I hand over back to the moderator, Kancha ji. And any questions, if anybody has, I'm happy to take. Hello, Japneet. Good to see you as well. And I would love to hear your thoughts as well on the conversation going forward.
Thank you so much, Karthik, for this wonderful insight. I mean, definitely, we have heard you constantly focusing on few words like relevance. Like relevance is something which is important, and before relevance, I could actually say that a realization of utilizing something, using something, and then misusing that thing is also important in today's scenario. I like you just mentioned that we are already working, or we are already staying in an era wherein the things have already, we have exhausted all the resources, and by 2035 or another 15 or 20 years, now we have to move in a scenario of a ratio of 60 to 40. So what, according to you, or like you have already worked a lot into AI, and founder also, you work with young kids also, school kids and the college kids. What is the one real problem statement you have realized which we or like the society can together work as in to improve or to take the sustainable environment forward? Any one thing you would like to focus on?
I personally believe that there is no one silver bullet as such, because in technology like AI, there'll always be a flip side. Like, I don't know how much you guys have researched that this whole issue of energy impact of AI recently came into being 2 years back, because it was under 1% for the longest time. And technologies like AI and blockchain have been around for last 15 years or so actively as well. But nobody talked about it. They only linearly thought that this is a silver bullet, let's use it to solve it. And only once you start doing something at scale, you realize that it doesn't work that way. And you have to constantly look at the multitude of the solutions. So to your point, I would not say that there is one thing or one solution which as a society everybody can do. I think the biggest, it's a mindset change. So I think typically human mind has been made to, and it happens to us in personal life also, right? That if some formula is working, chalo chalate rehte hain till the time it breaks. So it's a very, even in skill based things or gambling or wherever you will see, human beings tend to be very, I don't remember the word, but they tend to believe कि Newton law of motion की तरह कि there's something is going, ठीक है चलता रहेगा until it breaks, we'll not fix it, right? We hardly go to even doctors for regular appointment. We only go if something breaks. So I think that's a mindset issue. So as a society, one message could be that if we begin to foresee things that, this is what is going to happen and we should do something in advance rather than waiting for it to happen. So even in terms of my first part of the discussion where I was talking to students who are going to enter the job workforce in next 4 to 5 years, do not believe, and I have seen it with my friends also. अभी बहुत टाइम है, हमारी लाइफ तो ऐसे निकल जाएगी. That's the thought process we all have. And then suddenly we realize नहीं निकल पाएगी. I'll give you an example. My dad used to work in State Bank of India and we were young. Or computerization happened with banks, right? And he was like, जब तक computers आएंगे, बेटा I'll retire. Oh, नहीं हो पाया, because by that time I remember he was 52, 53. Full on CBS core banking solution got implemented. And his friends, he was luckily a bit fortunate thanks to us that he knew about a little bit of computers. His friends who didn't have knowledge, they had to take VR, voluntary retirement scheme, because they said that you are not usable in bank at all. So sometimes it happens that we feel that we'll be able to wing it in our career. It may not happen to us, or it will take a lot of time. Bill Gates says that you always underestimate the future in terms of timelines, right? You feel that it will take a lot of time, but I believe that it's already here. So one message would be that as a society, we need to be a little more pragmatic, especially in India, and not be too over optimistic that everything will take time and we'll be able to wing it in our lifetime, or it's our next generation problem. It may very soon be your problem, especially if you talk about things like water levels, electricity. Already in parts of like NCR, like I am in Delhi, I mean, you already start to really face some of these challenges in last 2 to 3 years. So I think we should have that mindset that things may happen earlier, and let's do something to solve it right now rather than to prolong it. So that would be my message.
Right. Absolutely correct. That sustainability is somewhere related to survival of the fittest. But the point is that something which is non-living, the resources cannot fight for themselves. That okay, stop using me, stop overusing me, stop overutilizing me or wasting me. Opening up, like we used to hear in our childhood, that don't open the tap while you are brushing your teeth. Water is going to extinct, or don't keep the lights or the television or the fans on for every time. So yes, definitely, from we have to learn from each and every step, and rather than starting late, it is better to start today. Thanks for that, Karthik. Devesh sir, do you have any further questions in the chat box from the student?
Yes.
All right, yeah.
This is not from the chat box. I was just wondering because very keenly I was taking notes of everything what Karthik has just said. So it just something clicked me that when we are talking about ML or a similar kind of technology or analytics, so the basic requirement is data for that. You want to generate more data, you want to generate more analytical outputs. First, you need some data to train your model. And in developing economies like India, where the power sector, energy sector is still not completely computerized, it is still in many areas it's working in a manual mode. So finding data, generating data about the usability, about transmission is very, very difficult. So what future do you see the use of AI/ML techniques in, especially in the distribution sector of energy domain?
So I think I would beg to differ that, especially in India, I think in last 2 years, especially with what the government is doing right now with power exchanges, and PTC, for example, is playing a big role in that, minus the issue they had over governance in last few weeks. But government is coming with more private exchanges of power where the auctioning would happen to create more transparency. There is more emphasis on microgrid management and last mile connectivity. And thirdly, there is also a big penetration now of smart meters and secured meters, which will do a lot of tracking. And government is also giving incentives to rural homes who install such meters. So I think the coverage of smart meters would be around 70 to 75% by I think as per government's mandate in their current by 2024 till they are in power. So if that happens, I think that will be a big push, and that would set the stage for next 5 to 6 years of, because as you rightly said, Devesh sir, once we're able to get the data, a lot of things would happen. So I think that's the focus right now, even in terms of governance, that in next, even if you see all around, right, things like government is installing, I know we tend to always have a negative feel about various governments, but I feel a lot of good things are also happening in our country, in our state. Like a lot of CCTV cameras are getting routinely. I mean, if you take a drive around Delhi, I mean, in last 2 to 3 years, I've seen a lot of CCTVs that are getting installed everywhere. A lot of speed cameras getting installed. In energy, more and more tracking is happening. So I think we are getting there, and I think probably next 4 to 5 years we would have more and more such hardware installations happening, which would give us more data. And then once that happens, I think by that time AI and ML models would have matured enough. We would have more learnings from the West. So something which has worked very well for our country is that when everybody in the world has beaten a particular problem down to death, we then are ready with our data set. So I think that's also a smart strategy, that's the Reliance way of doing it, right? When the whole problem is solved by everybody, we will come with our scale, and then we will do it better and cheaper, right? So who knows, that works out best for us.
That's a positive outlook for that. But definitely, yes, I acknowledge that all the governments, present government and the previous one, they all have shifted their focus on this automation sector so that they can have more and more data, not only financial sector but also other sectors. But this is somewhere we find the Indian jugaad, that if we have thousands of cameras installed all over Delhi NCR region with the speed detectors. So you have your mobile applications also available called radar scanners, and I'm sure everyone has heard of that. So they warn you in advance that there is a camera 300 meters ahead, so slow down. So
No, I think the other thing is that on that problem, because I find it very, anybody who drives in Delhi finds it very peculiar, that I think one of the smart things in some roads they have done now is that immediately after the speed camera, they have installed another speed camera in 200 meters because
Right.
people tend to zoom past.
yes.
So I think they're also collecting data and figuring it out that why there is this so much of variance just at the junction. So I think, yeah, all of them are probably using income tax department. I know for a fact through my friends that they are beginning to use a lot of AI, ML. MC is using a lot of AI, ML now to see that to detect shell companies and non-operating companies by in an automated way, tracking how the funds are managed, how their financial statements are moving year on year. Earlier, nobody had the time to do it manually. So absolutely, I think even in fintech space, a lot of interesting things are happening.
Yes.
So I'm pretty bullish about the future.
Akanksha ji.
Latika ma'am, are you there? Am I audible to you? Okay, I guess.
So I have one question. So it's on the behalf of students. So no one asked this question.
Sorry, Geeta ma'am. Geeta ma'am, you wanted to ask something? Okay, Japneet, yeah, you can continue.
So no, still wonder why no one asked this question, and I got like I usually get asked this question on LinkedIn and different channels that like most of these students they generally struggle getting a job in this domain, the data science and data analytics domain as a fresher. So basically what is the expectation of the industry is they want to hire the experienced professionals for the same because of the criticality of the projects that they are working on, and most of the projects are in the beta phases and they die in the beta phase as well. So what as a student what will be your thoughts on this thing, that how should they prepare to be more job ready for this industry if they are really interested in being part of this domain?
Sure. So my suggestion always is, because I also work with a lot of students, in fact in K to 12 as well, that pick up one area. So because AI and data science is extremely big and vast area. So for example, make a little bit of mini mastery in one subject. For example, take up natural language processing, for example, and make a niche in, let's say, chatbot. So you may be an undergrad or a grad student, but you're very good in creating chatbots using Dialogflow CX or Rasa, right? Make that your skill set, because then the industry would still be interested to look at, because they need people who can create agents in particular. Even large companies need employees who can do that, and that skill also takes time to develop. So if you can pick up one area, similarly, if you can pick up in CV one thing like, I don't know, YOLO or SSD, one area wherein you're very good in detection, right? Give me any data set, I'll be very good at object detection segmentation. So pick up that one particular theme or an area, or let's say you pick up KNN. So be that master of that one particular area, because AI and ML is so big that you will not be able to do justice as a fresher in picking up the entire skill set. But if you can create a bit of a mastery in one of the areas, or pick up TensorFlow, for example, that I, develop a little bit of expertise in TensorFlow because a lot of companies are using it. I think then even, and I'm talking practically, that even as a company myself, we hire freshers all the time. But the ones who have actually done something in AI, if somebody comes to me and say, I have done a certificate course on AI from ABC, and I can speak about AI, I'll not be interested. And if somebody comes from a tier 10 university and say, I know nothing really about AI, but I've created 5 chatbots and this is how I do it, this is the methodology I follow, I'll be more interested, and I am always hiring such people. So I'm sure that's a takeaway for the students, and it's a good point, Japni, that People typically think that if they have more certificates, more degrees to their name, the employability increases, but not anymore. Now people are always hiring for skill. I mean, like I used to work for Deloitte, and all the big fours, I think around 2019 or so, they declared that we will not be looking at your degree is not required to get a job in Big Four, which was a landmark statement because Big Fours typically used to only hire from IITs, IIMs, Big Four, I mean, Ivy Leagues and whatnot. They said now anybody can apply and we will look at you with the same set of eyes. No formal degree, even if you don't have a formal degree, that's fine. So that's how the employability ecosystem has evolved. So develop your niche into something and have demonstrable evidence that you know it. And your justification of knowing it should not be that I have a certificate of doing it. Certificate means nothing to employers now. You should be able to demonstrate that you have learned something.
Yes, and one should not claim to be a data scientist after doing that Andrews NG course on Coursera. Like most people claim to be one after that course. Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Geeta ma'am, you wanted to ask something? Are you able to unmute yourself now?
Yes, ma'am. Answered. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
She has some network issue that just got resolved. That's okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, fine. So we can take the session forward from here. Thank you, Karthik, for your wonderful connect about how exactly AI is helping or AI can help or maybe swayed away everything in another coming future.
But
I
our
would take
students are still asking questions.
All
Yes.
right, no.
I have one more. If you can give us 30 seconds.
Surely, sir, definitely. They are a little slow. You know what Japneet question was that I am, really shocked that why students are not asking. Japneet, these are first year students. So they're still in that, dilemma majorly that where to go, where not to go. So they, from these seminars, they actually get an insight that yes, this is also a field or this is also something. They must have heard about ML and AI, but they are getting little more information from both of you right now. So Devesh, please go ahead with the question.
But
That's
before
why
that, I love that answer
into
from
that.
Japneet when he said that you cannot call yourself data science scientist after taking a course in Coursera or something.
Right.
Nothing against Coursera, but the same sentiment was conveyed by Karthik also, that if you have a certificate or a diploma from somewhere, but you don't have any practical skills, no innovation, no creativity, never applied anything on any real life project, so it's good for nothing. Anyways, a very small question. I think it's a very similar one, which is already answered. It says, sir, according to you, which specific skill in AI will be more useful in the coming years of IT industry?
So I think all, and Japneet can also add on. I think so there are broad three components of AI. One is data science, second is computer vision, and third is natural language processing. So I think in all the three areas, there are ample opportunities. If you see around the world, all the chatbots, all the sentiment analysis, they all use recommendation system. They all use combination of NLP and data science. If we talk about things you see in malls where people are creating detection systems, people are using to track whether somebody is wearing a mask or not mask, social distancing, all of these are now being tracked, especially in Western countries using street cameras. They all use machine vision systems. A lot of retail stores and retail systems are now tracking eyeballs and trying to figure out where to do shelf management in retail using computer vision. So I think there's huge opportunities using computer vision for even password security management is now being used in a lot of fintech companies. We all unlock our phones using face detection system. So I think all these three components, if you invest time in or any of these, there are immense opportunities to make a career in next many years. I think future is going to be more and more generative AI and quantum will also dovetail with it. But I think you should be rest assured that if you pick up any or all of these areas, depending upon your cognitive ability and capacity, I think it's a bright future for all of you.
Right. Absolutely. I guess that answers the question, what the student was asking. Sir, any further questions with you in the chat box?
I have another one. Okay. It includes my name. He's tagging me along in the question.
Then you have to answer that.
No, the question is directed towards Karthik. It says, sir, as Devesh sir has told us that there is a big scope in data analysis, but sir, everyone is doing ML and analytical courses. My question is, sir, if everyone will be doing the same, job scope for the same will be reduced too. Is it still safe to invest ourselves in this?
No, that's the differentiator which Japni was also talking about. And I was saying that it's not about the degree or courses that anybody and everybody can do, but the real learning, demonstrable outcomes that everybody will not have, right? By theory, everybody can look at AI, learn AI, but the real differentiator would be somebody who can implement it, use it, and show the evidence that they understand it. And I think that's going to be a key differentiator. So focus more on developing executable skills, and that's the advantage with technology like AI, that you don't need to invest a lot in theory, right? It's extremely hands-on. So if you are able to do that, that would be the biggest differentiator for you in any conversation for your employability, or if you start your own business, that you can actually create something and not talk about it. And any day, I think in business, execution beats just knowing something in the air, right?
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Akanksha ji, I think.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Karthik, for your valuable words. I will take this opportunity to carry forward this session with our second technical speaker for this session, Mr. Japneet Singh Chawla. Japneet is currently working at Lambda Test, one of the leading software testing companies that provides platform as a service to perform automated and live interactive cross browsers testing on over 3,000 plus real browsers and operating systems online. He is in the core engineering team and building solutions that are used by companies like Deloitte, KPMG, Microsoft, Postman, Cisco, etc. Japneet has also worked with the Indus Valley Partners for 6 years, where he used to build AI solutions for stock market trading for hedge funds. Japneet did his bachelor's from Delhi University and completed his master's in computer applications from Jim's College, Rohini. Japneet has always been a curious student from the very beginning, and his curiosity led to start his career as a software engineer in the IT industry. Japneet continues to work with the goal to educate the students and professionals in gaining more knowledge about the industry and bridges this gap between education system and the software industry on his digital platform via YouTube channel named as Data Sing. So I would take this opportunity to welcome our Data Sing. Japneet, over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And it's really an honor to be introduced by your teachers. So first of all, thank you all for giving me this opportunity to speak in front of you guys. So, and thanks for inviting me for this session. And basically, I have just to talk a little about the curiosity part. So I initially started my career, and I was lucky enough to be part of that industry who was moving towards AI and ML. So I started working on the different solutions that we were trying to build at the company Indus Valley Partners. But yeah, so now I'm working as a engineer, I'm working on a different solutions. But yes, I that is because of my curiosity that led me to work on the different fields and in different companies. And this is mentioned in the past session as well. So nowadays, like the career switches that you make, it has grown. So now a person is working like at least making 10 to 12 switches in their entire career. And that is where the IT industry, including the AI ML part, so that is where the industry is moving ahead. And today I will be talking about, we are talking about sustainable energy, renewable energy, and I just want to link it with a business use case, that is a supply chain. So initially, I know that we are from the we are not from the business background, so I would like to start with this start this session with a bit of what is supply chain, and how things are related, and how IT is helping out in optimizing the supply chain. So I am having some slides, and I will be presenting some slides, and yep. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible. You can do full
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, I would like to start the session. Like there is a very recent TV series called as Shark Tank, and I hope many of you are students, but like not even for gaining a knowledge purpose, but for the entertainment purpose. Many of us have like viewed that TV series, and many a times when there is a business idea, so the sharks usually talked about the supply chain and how are like people managing the supply chain. So this comes to the point that why is this so important and what exactly is a supply chain? So basically, if we talk about like supply chain from a layman's perspective, that is what my motto will be for this session, because most of us are not from the business background. So supply chain is basically a network of companies, consumers, producers, and distributors, which the end goal of this network is to supply the goal or supply a good or a product or a service to the end consumer. So basically, right from the raw material to the end product that reaches the consumer, this is all a part of supply chain. So just if I take an example of like a pizza based manufacturing industry, so if I take example of Harvest Gold, that is the company name. So here the first part is procurement of raw material. If I talk about the supply chain nodes, so the first node is like procurement of the raw material. Okay, so this procurement part is basically this can be done from the farmers, basically who are generating wheat, and that produce is taken up by suppliers. And what suppliers are doing? Suppliers are basically like collecting this from different farmers. So this is not a single source. So they are collecting the raw materials from the different farmers, and they are providing the other along with the wheat. Along with wheat, they are providing other raw materials to the manufacturing units. And then the manufacturing units, they are manufacturing the final and finished product, and this product then goes to the distributors, which are basically which are a large scale, or basically they are handling large areas. So distributor and retailer, if we differentiate them, so distributors are covering a larger area, and then there are retailers which are covering like smaller areas, like the shops in the different localities that we have. Okay, and then the final product is being shipped to consumer. So this every node is very important part of the supply chain. And what is the like what creates a supply chain? It is the demand from the consumer. So if you don't have, like, if consumers don't demand for a pizza base, the company will not be manufacturing that product. So that is the demand that leads to the start of the supply chain, and it ends with the consumer. So it starts with the consumer and it ends with the consumer. So this is what a supply chain is basically. Okay, and like I have talked about the different nodes of the supply chain, and just to give you a hint, so we just talked about a pizza based industry. If we talk about Harvest Gold as a complete industry, so they are manufacturing different things. So every product has a supply chain linked to that product. Okay, and there can be companies which are like manufacturing like large number of products. So for every product, they will have to maintain a supply chain, and they will have to manage that supply chain, and they will have to prepare contingency plans, and like so that if any node is interrupted or disrupted, so they are able to continue the business. Just to give you a very recent example, if you might be aware of a chip shortage of the chips that are used in vehicles, that has led to like increased waiting times of almost all the vehicles, and manufacturing units of all the automobile industries, like they are affected because of that chip shortage. So that is basically disruption in the supply chain that we are talking about, and how like how we will be managing all those things, and how technology is helping in managing all these things. We will be talking about this in a later part of the session. So like now, why supply chain is very important, and like you will be hearing the words like optimization, efficient utilization of resources, and all these things. You can try to relate these with IT, because as an engineer, as a data scientist, as a data analyst, we are always like working on optimizing some of the things. And with optimizing, the result can be efficient use of the resources that we are having. So like first point, if I talk about the cost optimization. So if my supply chain is optimized, I'm able to plan proper deliveries. I am able to plan and procure the items in advance according to the demand. So this can lead to the optimization in the cost, optimization in the logistic cost, optimization in the cost of deliveries. So all these things can be achieved like when we are optimizing the supply chain. Then second part is efficient use of resources. So resources here is not just basically something that is tangible. It can be your mental resources. It can be the resources that are obtained from the raw in the form of raw material. It can be the delivery logistic fleet that you are having. So all these things. So if I want to deliver something I am like if you talk about Amazon. So it is now like earlier it used to like send you the individual packages, but now they have started clubbing the packages. So sometimes what happens is your complete order is not delivered at once. You get it in patches because of the optimizations that they are performing in the terms of like logistics. So to make sure that all the resources are efficiently utilized, and also they have to work on the customer experience. That brings me to the next point. So there can be a case like if I'm working on like 100% efficient utilization of resources, so that might hamper the customer experience. Why? At times it can happen that my order is not shipped just because one of the product or supply chain of one of the product was hampered and that got delayed. That can lead to the delayed of the overall package that I have ordered. So that will result in the bad customer experience. So if my supply chain and all these things are properly managed, my deliveries are very predictable. I can give an exact date of deliveries, that when my product will be delivered. So all these things can enhance the customer experience, which in turn will improve the customer retention. Because if you know that a product is good, so there are many market players which have been in the market. So there is Amazon, Flipkart, and Snapdeal is still there, but no one is majorly talking about it. So it is all about how the customer retention and how the other companies. So Amazon is a big giant. Flipkart is still competing that giant with all the techniques and strategies that are based out of data only. So that is basically what is improving the customer retention, because of the customers are getting better experience, so they are getting retained on that particular product. And the next part is capacity planning. So if we talk about a very generic use case, so in India specifically, so Diwali months are basically the months wherein buyers come out and they shop aggressively. So this is a very generic use case wherein every shopkeeper knows that my product will be my sales will be increasing, and they start to plan for that sale. But the case is not always this certain. So this certainty is because we are living in India for a very long time, and we know about the Diwali will be aggressive buying season and everything. But there can be other events as well. So planning for those events, which can be mined from the data, is again something which will help you to improve the supply chain and improve the overall stability of the business. And the last thing that I will talk about is business opportunity. So supply chain as a whole can create a business opportunity for you. Just think about a very upcoming startup, that is Zepto. So what it is doing, it has improved the supply chain of the entire industry of that is basically delivery of your groceries and things that are the smaller things within 10 minutes. So that is the concept that Zepto is following. And how it is doing that? It is doing that by optimizing the supply chain model that the company is having. So that is basically as a whole, it is created a business as a complete business, which is growing with the rate of 200% year on year. So that is the importance of supply chain, and this is the impact it can create on the larger audience as a whole. So now this is more of what is supply chain, why it is very important. And there is now a concept of whenever there is a problem, there is again a solution. So there is a solution of supply chain management, and there are supply chain managers who work at different levels and different nodes, And but basically what they are doing, they are like doing this analysis, they are doing this forecasting, they are doing the predictions for the capacity planning, they are hunting for the business opportunities, they are preparing the contingency plans. And these are basically four pillars of supply chain management. That is demand management. The term itself is very self-explanatory. So demand management is basically when we are basically predicting the demand, or we are creating that demand through good pricing model, competitive pricing. We are improving it by some sales or something, like we are introducing some discounts and sales. So that way we are creating demand or managing the demand. Either like we are trying to increase the demand, or we are trying to managing the demand. And with the increased demand, we are also managing the supply. So like if I know that my demand would be increased, so there will be I also have to increase the supply for that particular product. And that is where the supply management comes into the picture. And similarly like this demand and supply, it comes to the first three nodes: the raw material procurement, raw materials, suppliers, and manufacturing. Then comes the third the second half of the chart that we saw. So sales and operations planning. It comes there are concepts like logistics, there are concepts like delivery management, there are concepts like return management, because whenever you are buying something, there are chances that you will be returning the products as well. So there are all these things come into sales and operations planning. And then there is a product portfolio management. So why it is very important? Because in the very first slide I told you about that pizza based industry. So if I am having n number of products, I will have to manage those many supply chains for those products as well. So that is basically, that comes into this fourth pillar of supply chain management. And what is the outcome of this complete, what is the goal of all these things? So it is good SCM will be leading to happy customer, and happy customer will be leading to happy business, and happy business will lead to high performance and high growth of the business. So these are the end goals of the supply chain management. So till now, this might be too much of the business aspect, and many of us will be wondering that why on a technical forum like this I am talking about all these things. So because these things are directly, so I will be just showing you the next slide, and these are some of the logos that you can see. And you can also open the LinkedIn, and you can see that how many engineers and how many students from the IT background, they are working in all these companies. So these are some of the top companies which engineers strive to work for. And there are many more companies. I have just mentioned some of the logos. So this is just a handful of logos that I could fit in this slide. And all these companies, so they are based on the supply chain models. So every supply chain is integral part of all these companies. And we as engineers, so what we are solving for this in this supply chain. So if you talk to any engineer working in Swiggy, so you will be he will not be saying that I am working at Swiggy. He will be saying that I am working in logistic department of Swiggy. I'm working in the dine-in department. I'm working in the deliveries department. So all these are if there is an order, how to manage that order through the application and without any human intervention. That is where the IT comes into picture. And that is where we are optimizing that how an order should be optimized to maximize the profit. And also Karthik would agree to this. Every goal of any AI bot or any machine learning model is to optimize something. So either we want to maximize something or minimize something. So there is equation like y equals to c1x c2 x2, something like that. And again, we are finding that perfect set of constants c1 and c2 that will increase, maximize or minimize something. So we can maximize the profits, we can minimize the losses, we can maximize the we can minimize the delivery times to different consumers, which will lead to increased user experience. So this is how all this supply chain that we talked about, these are related to the IT people and IT industry. So and I would I know it is something that is basically something related to business side as well, and I will be happy to have any questions that you have. Just a moment. Yes. So what are the different challenges in the SCM? So we already talked about the different challenges the AI is facing. So these are different silos. So every node in the this diagram that we showed, we have seen. So every node in that diagram, they are working in silos. So farmers are working they don't know what is the complete supply chain all about. They are working on their part of that node, and then the manufacturing unit is working on their set of things. They don't know that how much sales is there, like how is there any kind of increase in demand. They just know that how we are going to optimize the manufacturing, how we are going to minimize the cost, and how we are able to make the schedules very stable for the deliveries. Okay, and then there comes a distribution. So distribution, a distributor, it has to do nothing with the other parts of the node. So the distributor is more focused on I should keep minimum inventory with me, and the transportation cost for that I'm incurring should be low. Okay, so that is the goal for the distributor. And for the service and the end customer, so retailer to customer, that is, so that basically node that deals with the high service levels and low cost of that service that they are providing. So retailer will be more happy to sell a product with a minimum cost that is being incurred to that retailer and maximizing the profit. So here the goals of all the different nodes, they are different, and managing all these things under the one roof, it becomes a challenge. And here this is where the IT, AI and ML, all these things come into picture, because here we are talking about a single supply chain, but when we are having data for different supply chains, and when we are accumulating data from the IoT devices, so we can predict more accurately what about the deliveries, about any of the weather condition that we have, which will be affecting our raw materials. So, okay, so just to give you an example, so COVID-19 only just this event, it has impacted over 75% of the industries in some way or another, because of the travel restrictions that were imposed. Okay, so if we just talk about optimizing a node, that is not a very bigger problem. The bigger problem is optimizing the complete set of supply chain, all the nodes of the supply chain, so that every node works in sync with other nodes. And then what is the outcome of the stable supply chain? That is basically what we talked about. So we will be maximizing our profits, we will be increasing the customer experience, we will be increasing having a good business and high performance business. So these will be the key outputs if we are able to use the ML and AI to manage the supply chain. And I will be talking about what are the different sectors that that are again continuously using the AI and ML. But yes, these are also food for your thoughts, that how and what are many people ask me a question that what should we do. So many people are very happy building a dummy project which is already built by thousands of students. But if you talk, I always say that pick a real life problem that is existent in the real life and people are facing that problem, and then start working on that problem. If you are finding if you are able to find a solution to that problem, so no degree and no other student can match that skill set that you are having. Pick a real life problem and solve that. So these are different problems that are existent in real life, and you can think about if there is any kind of solution that is built for this problem, or how you can give your inputs to the industry and solve this problem at your level, and it will help you in your career building perspectives. So what are the risks that are involved? So we talked about all these events. So basically every node is working as a separate entity, and they are working at very optimized level. So everything is optimized, but as a whole, if supply chain is not optimized, so there can be margin erosion. So basically, let's say your fleet is not managed properly and you are paying more for the deliveries, so that will directly impact your margins that you are having saving for the business purposes. Okay, then if there is sudden demand change and your supply chain is not it is not having any contingency plan or a separate plan for that demand change. So if we take recent example of COVID, so the demand for sanitizers increased many folds, and the industry was not prepared for that. So these are the problems which are yet to be solved. So no one was like ready for that, and there was no plan for that, and it took industry like a complete set of months, like 2 to 3 months, to stabilize again and fulfill that demand for like sanitizers, masks, and all the stuff that were like PP kits. So we have seen shortages in all of the things related to COVID. And then there can be a product quality failure. So if we are pressurizing our manufacturing units to produce more and more, so there can be compromises in the quality of the product, and which can lead to basically failure in the quality, and then you will have to buy back all those products. So these things can also be managed using the AI and machine learning things. If we like incorporate all these things into our manufacturing units, that is being done on a large scale industries, many large scale industries. Yes, but it is not completely feasible for small scale industries. So if we incorporate all these things, that can reduce the product quality failure, and product flow disruptions can also be like if we are having the contingency plans for like our deliveries and logistics, then there can be like this failure can also be incorporated. And now comes like how and like how AI is basically helping us to like create a better solution, and how like to help in SCM. So there is a chatbot example of a chatbot, and this is a conversation. I will give you a minute or so to read about this particular conversation, and just try to get a gist of what a chatbot is trying to do. So the second line mentions, based on the news outlets and social media, I learned that local business and infrastructure were heavily damaged, and at a particular location XYZ. So the data, so every time you feel a sudden jerk in your house, you check Twitter for like earthquakes. So Twitter is like, it is even more faster than any of the news channel for any of the recent catastrophe that happens. So like that data, Twitter allows you to mine that data. It is like your algorithm and your models, how you want to use that data, how you want to extract information out of that data for your particular context. So here you can build an intelligent chat box, and one of the chat box company is already making many similar kind of chat box, that is the Chime bot. And here they have built a customized chat bot, which is basically informing like a person, the related person, about a catastrophe that happened and which affected the complete supply chain. And it also, like, it is not about like just information, because information you can get like giving the information is not as useful as like also suggesting the plan of actions that can be like taken after that thing that has happened. So it has like, it is telling that this is basically something that happened, and it has also planned a different plan for like a continuity of the business, and it is just giving the recommendations. So the part here is the missing part, like this is also not a complete solution. The missing part here is it should be able to execute the decisions as well. So that will be more powerful solution if it is able to execute that decision on its own without any human intervention. That is something which is not a very like very close to near future, but yes, that will be the future of AI in the supply chain management. And this is how basically a chatbot can help in different regulatory filings, or basically giving you contingency plans, and if it is autonomous and it can execute the decisions on its own, so any human intervention is not allowed, and like it will ensure that your business runs very smoothly. So this is how a chatbot can help you like in supply chain management. Then the second is a machine learning for supply chain planning. So basically every company has a lot of data of like customers buying different products, like distributors buying different type of products at in different seasons. So they are like, this data is used to find the seasonal trends, or annual trends, seasonal trends. So these trends are used for a better supply chain planning, better demand forecasting, better basically inventory management, capacity planning. And like it can also like give you the data, like associative mining is a technique wherein you are planning. So like if you have you have opened a shop, and you know that like first of all what you will be doing, you will be analyzing the localities that are surrounding your particular shop or retail outlet. And then what you will be doing, you will be mining the, like you will be keeping the products that are frequently used by the like people living around. And all these things can be achieved by the data. And like earlier it used to happen like in a manner wherein uh, like the data was very small, and you could use your human cognitive skills to determine that what all things to keep and what all not to keep, and you would learn with experience. But what if from the very beginning, from the day one, if you're having all these things, so your like the loss or the learnings that you will be having in the like 6 months to 1 year in the business, you will start like with like +1 years of experience from the very beginning. So that is how like supply chain management can be machine learning can be used in this kind of planning. Then there comes one more solution, that is basically warehouse management. So if you know about like if I don't know if you guys have like viewed videos of Flipkart warehouses and Amazon warehouses. So they are now using robotics. So they are using robots to like fetch the order from like from a large warehouse. So if I'm like having a warehouse of, let's say, like 1,000 acres, or like the land is huge, and like the number of workers that will have to work to manage all the orders will be like you will be having a view, you will be needing a huge workforce if you have to manage such a large warehouse. So robotics is something that is used here. And along with like you just give the details of what all things you need, and like all these the data that is related to that, what product is kept where, that is fed into the systems. And like robots are used to fetch that particular product from the complete warehouse, find and fetch that product, and give it to the customer, like the person who is like managing all these things at the warehouse. It can also help in like a better forecasting, and help in like proper capacity planning of your warehousing. It can basically avoid the problems like understocking and overstocking, which is a huge problem, because like many a times if you think and if you study about these businesses, so overstocking is something that is like very bad for your margins, because then you either have to like take out material, and you have to sell the material at a very low price, or like that is something that will affect your overall margins. So this is the area where in the complete warehouse management, AI and machine learning models can be used. And this is basically I'm not I didn't put any company name here, but you can definitely search for the company names. And for the robotics, Gray Orange is a company who is making robots, and like who is working in the warehouse management, automated warehouse management. So this is like something like where these are the different fields wherein AI is helping in supply chain management. So this is one more use case of autonomous vehicles for logistics. Like in India, it is like still not there, the autonomous vehicles. But if like you think about, like you have seen videos of Tesla, like autonomous vehicles of Tesla, and the trucks are also getting produced on the same. Just think about a person, like as a person, as a human, we can drive only for like some set of hours, and then we need some rest. And there are chances wherein like we are also like, if we are tired and then again we are working, we are driving for a longer period of time, there are chances that there can be on some uncertainty that can happen. So we might the truck might meet with an accident, or like if there is any kind of this type of uncertainty, there will be loss of the products that the truck is carrying. There will be loss of the customer experience, because your complete supply chain gets hampered. And on the other hand, basically there is a limit on limit on the time at which I can work. So I can work for like, let's say, 11 or 12 hours a day. But like if we are having the autonomous vehicles, so that can work 24 hours, and like that can help me to ship the product 24/7. Basically I'm available for the logistics 24/7. And this is again like autonomous vehicles are also something that can be used in the warehouses. Like Amazon has started the drone deliveries. So that is something that is an autonomous vehicle. So there is no human intervention that is required, and deliveries are getting done from end to end basis. So this is again a field wherein the AI is helping to manage the supply chain. So I think this is something that was related to what I wanted to talk all about. But yes, there is one a small case study that I want to share. I talked about like supply chain management creating a business opportunity. So if I talk about Zepto, which is a very recent startup, so what they started with like there were n number of companies. So Big Basket, Grofers, Amazon delivery. So all these companies are huge, and they were already basically delivering the groceries at the doorstep. So what this company thought about is like they started with 3 Ws. So first W was, what do consumer need? So they need it, and in the Indian market the customers are not very loyal. So you will buy the product from the company which is selling it at a cheaper rate and providing the same set of services. So the consumers are not loyal. So what they are paying for? So what do customer needs? They need a discounted price on the things they want to buy. And what they are paying for? They are paying for the convenience of sitting at home and then ordering the things and then getting the things at home. And what is available in the market? So at that time when they started, so basically Grofers, Blinkit, Grofers now Blinkit, so Big Basket, Amazon, all these were like providing the deliveries for the same items that they were like entering into. So how like what different did they did to like enter into the market and capture a market? So they thought of an idea. So they did like there was a company before that was Kiryana Mart. So they collected the data from that company, and what they basically analyzed was if they are able to deliver the items within 30 minutes, the chances of customer returning was very high. It was around 45 to 50%. That customer will order again if they are getting deliveries within 30 minutes. So what they did was they planned that they will be providing deliveries within 10 minutes. And like once you get once you use Zepto, there is no way back, because like it just imagine about a case that you are sitting at home and just you need something someone comes to your place and you need some of the things like you need like soda drinks or something like that. So what you will do, yeah, you can use like you will not be opening Grofers like and wait for like 2-3 days for the deliveries. But now it is also like after Zepto, it has started to provide you like a delivery in 10 minutes or 20 minutes. But you will open Zepto and there is no way back. They are basically using the dark store model, wherein what they are doing, they are analyzing the buying pattern. So first, if before setting up their store, what they will do, they will be analyzing the buying patterns of the like consumers in that particular locality, even before starting at any particular locality. And here, like this analysis of this buying pattern, it is not happening manually by hand or using, they are not using any kind of Excel sheets. So there are many models that are used to get this buying patterns and mine this from the data. And then they are also mining what is the purchase frequency. And after getting these answer to these two things, they now know that what all things they will be needing in that particular store. And they can leave the rest of the products that are not required and that are not frequently ordered. And then what they have done location engineering using the graph theories and the data available from the maps. They have to engineer a location from where serving the radius of 2 to 3 kilometers is just happening in 10 minutes, the max of 10 minutes. So they engineer that location, and then they find a proper place for their dark store, wherein they just keep the products that are required by the people in that location. And according to their purchase frequency, they are planning for the demands and they are planning for the supply. And they have optimized also to optimize the PVP. PVP is basically picking up, bagging, and then starting the delivery, was like leaving the warehouse. So till the time, so there is a case study, you can find it on internet. So within the first 60 seconds of you placing the order, your order has left the dark store for your delivery. So that is where their main focus is on. And this is how they are they have just optimized this complete supply chain, and now they have created a a huge business out of this. So this is the business opportunity that they are providing. So with this, I would I hope that I have seeded the thoughts, different thoughts for you to think upon and to work upon in your entire college journey. And when you join the industry, you might start your own industry, and you might start industry, and you are also thinking about the business side of the things, because it is not always about your coding skills, your programming skills. It is also about how you are able to solve some problem, because at the end, the end goal of any industry is to generate revenue. And only coding skills will not generate revenue. You will have to think about the wider picture. You have to grow your mindset, and you have to think about how my coding skills are solving some problems. So that is where I will end this session. Any questions are welcomed.
Thank you so much, Japneet, for this amazing insight on how exactly supply chain management works. I mean, there were few terminologies which were also new for me, being into the other side of the zone, or entirely different thing. There's one question which says that you were explaining about that how there are the four pillars of SCM, that is demand management, supply management, sales, and product portfolio. So how exactly these things are interlinked with each other? How can you say that these are the four pillars? Does it require any customer evaluation before? And how does the demand management actually takes place?
So demand management is basically I can say that these are the four pillars, and they are interrelated because they are part of the same supply chain. Okay. And they are just working at the different nodes. And the customer behavior that the first thing is demand management. So you will first have to if we talk about the traditional models. So how it happened? So there were there is a store, there is a company which is manufacturing, and they will wait for data to come in to analyze that what is the exact demand that is required in the product, in the market. So that is basically they will wait for that data to come in, and then only they can plan for the demand. So there can be a case that this data can take up to years, because there can be a trend that is that is changing every month. There can be a trend that is changing every year. So for the events like Diwali that I talked about, so that is a yearly trend, and you cannot predict that from just 1 year data. You will be needing data for 2, 3, 4 years. And that is where the data I talked about, the data is the new oil. So that is where it comes into picture. So the companies like Swiggy and Zomato, so they are also working, and they are also playing on the data. And you can buy data from the industries, and that are working in the same segment. The data is available in the market. You will have to pay for it. You can buy that data, and you can skip that waiting for 3 years or 4 years period, and you can use that data, and you can try to align that data with your new trends that your business is generating. So demand management. So demand is the first thing is you will have to look at the customers who are purchasing your items. And then the second is demand can also be increased by special discounting. So whenever in the Indian market specifically, if you provide a discount on any item, so even if a person is not needing that item, so he will again he will give it one thought at least to buy that item because it is available at discount. And if you provide a massive discount, so that will lead to increase in the demand of that particular product. And this is how the demand is basically managed in the supply chain.
So there's another question with me which says that can you please explain us more about chatbots linked with Twitter? So
chatbot linked with Twitter. So I will just give you one example of one of the project that I did for Indus Valley Partners. So there the tweets or the Twitter tweets. So these tweets have power to if Elon Musk tweets something, so it has power to skyrocket the stock prices of any company, and also ruin a company. So this is the power of a tweet from an influential person. So Twitter gives you an opportunity to get data. You can get the data of tweets using the APIs that they are having, and you can now it is your mindset or your skill set how you want to use that data. So we used to mine data for different stock companies, so different stocks, and what people are talking about different stock. And one of the data that we mined was if there is basically like if more people are talking about a product, so the stock prices of that company are like there are chances that that company, that the stock price will increase or decrease. Now increase or decrease will directly depend on what emotions are there into it. So are people talking positively about the product or negatively about the product? And this comes under the sentiment analysis of the tweet that is there. And like you can mine the data that what like if you have built a model which can mine that which location. So if like there is an earthquake in Delhi, so generally the tweets will be like earthquake in Delhi, shocks in Delhi, something like this. And if you are able to get this data and you are able to make an understanding out of that data, that can serve as information to you. And this is how the chatbots can be linked with different Twitter streams. So you can get data from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can get data from the Google News channels. So there are n number of APIs that you can use to get all this data and collect this data. But it is again in unstructured format. You will have to use your skills to make it structured data and add context to that data and make it useful and make it as like it will be a data, but you will have to convert it into information for you.
Okay, great. I guess that answers the question of Ronak. Devesa, do you have any questions in your chat box?
No, ma'am. I'm afraid I don't have any questions in chat window, but I would like to ask a small question. Japneet, you're just giving example of Zepto and Blinkit. So is it possible to analyze the demand originating from specific sections of localities? So that because Blinkit, what my observation is, Blinkit are managing their own stores. So
yes,
what they're doing is that if a particular product or a series of products are more popular, let's say in West Delhi, but they're not so popular in South Delhi or maybe some specific colony. So can they be procured and stored so that the immediate delivery can be possible using ML?
Yes. So basically, if we talk about like if we talk about Swiggy, Instamart, or let's talk about Blinkit. So Grofers or Blinkit, so they have now collected enormous data that they can easily predict that at what locality, what is something that is required by this particular locality. And the Blinkit, what it was doing, so it like they have a large warehouse scheme. So they are having large warehouses wherein they are keeping their own products, and they are also doing the capacity planning of the inventories that are required by that like the area. So serving area of that particular basically godown or warehouse is basically large. So how Zepto is optimizing it? So it has optimized. So it is basically working like as a distributor model. So there is a manufacturing unit, but there can be n number of distributors, and services from the distributor can be made faster than the services directly from the manufacturing unit. So this is basically the game difference between these two companies now. But Blinkit has also started to optimize it, and they are also claiming for better delivery times. And yeah, this data can be directly mined from the the kind of purchase data that you are having.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. Good. Learned a lot from this session.
Same here, sir. Thank you so much, Japneet. And I mean, thanks for coming and sparing your time for sharing us with what exactly supply chain management is all about and how these young students can maybe move into a field of entrepreneurship or thinking about an idea or learning about a particular case study. I would like to take this session forward by giving a formal vote of thanks. I'm really glad and obliged that our speakers, two eminent speakers, Karthik and Japneet, came here and share their valuable thoughts with us. I would also like to thank our director, Dr. Pooja Jain, our dean, Dr. Praveen Arora, and GIMS management for giving us this opportunity every year to create and conduct such kind of IT symposiums for the students, wherein they can come and learn a lot from people from the corporate and research areas. I would also appreciate the constant support from our, you can say, the technical team and especially the design team, all the coordinators, without whom this event would not have been possible. A special thanks to my co-convener Devesh sir, He has always been there from past 7 years. We are conducting, both of us are doing this together. And every year we come up with some new topics and challenges, and then we talk to each other, acha, is pe kya, what we can write and what we can explore, what we both can learn together. He's been always a backbone for this particular symposium. Thank you so much, Devesh sir, for always staying there as a constant support. And last but not the least, to all the students for joining this session and staying in the session so patiently. And I hope you have come out with some great ideas about how exactly green computing is moving in this particular world. Thank you so much, everyone. I've already shared the link for the feedback form and the certificates in the chat box. Kindly fill it with your official Gyms India email ID. And after a few seconds or minutes, you will be receiving a certificate on that. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great session. Thanks, Japneet. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Japneet. And good to see you, buddy, after so many years. You're doing good. Very happy for you.
Same here. Absolutely. I was watching your YouTube channel the other day when I called you. And Komal ma'am actually told me that he's doing wonders. Listen to him once. And I actually shared the link with Praveen ma'am as well. And seriously, the way you speak, that is so lingual. I mean, that is so, naturally coming in a very basic and a very normal format that anybody could learn it. So keep on moving on that path. Really, really happy for what you're doing right now.
It just reflects the amount of content he has, and he has collected for past 6-7 years. I believe it's been 6 years since you left gyms, right?
Yes, sir.
6 years he was in IVP, I guess 7 or 8 maybe. What? Right?
No, so 6 years, 6+ years is the total. I worked in IVP for around good 3.5 to 4 years.
All right. Okay. That's really nice.
Yeah.
So it's always good to get the students back. And from this end of the classroom, we both are sitting in classroom right now. From this end of the classroom, we are sharing with you in a virtual mode.
And I hope next time we organize it again in PhD chambers or Crown Plaza or somewhere.
I am literally from past 3 years, we're sitting here only, either be 2020, 2021 or 2022. Next year, definitely we have to do it in an offline mode so that all of them who are, we are just looking at their thumbnails of their photographs or something like that, we'll be able to see them in reality also. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. And take care. I've again shared the link.
Thank you so much, everyone. And Akanksha ji, all credits to you. You do all the job and you just put my name everywhere. I'm deeply humbled and you're so nice. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Japneet. Thank you. I have, allowed all of you to speak now. Anybody wants to say anything? Anyone?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I hope you all have learned something today, and keep on learning, keep on growing and understanding the concepts. I'm again sharing the link with all of you in the chat box. Quickly fill it up because we are going to close this responses in another 10 minutes. Okay. So I hope nobody is facing any problem. I could just get a quick reply from you people.
Ma'am, sign in मांग रहा है, but आगे option नहीं आ रहा.
Vishesh, there is no such problem. You're filling it from phone also. Even if you're doing it from your mobile, it is not having any problem there. एक बार re-log in करो आप. Sign in will definitely ask you to sign in from a particular Gmail ID. You do it from any of your IDs. आप अगर Gyms India से कर रहे हो या Gmail से कर रहे हो, दोनों के ऊपर जहाँ से भी आप कर रहे हो, you will be able to receive the certificate.
मैम सिस्टम में ऑलरेडी जीमेल आईडी लॉग्ड इन है, तो उसमें साइन इन का ऑटोमेटिकली ऑप्शन आ नहीं रहा ना. ईमेल आईडी आ रही ना पासवर्ड आ रहा फिल करने के लिए.
फॉर्म इज ओपनिंग.
मैम फॉर्म ओपन हो रहा है बट उसमें एक बॉक्स आ रहा है लिखा हुआ यू नीड टू साइन इन. और मैम साइन इन ऑलरेडी है सिस्टम में मेरा जीमेल अकाउंट.
एक बार लॉग आउट करो वहां से
ट्राई करो.
सिस्टम
व्हाट्सएप पे सेंड कर दूं क्या?
दोबारा ट्राई कर लो.
ओके मैम.
ओके. Anybody else having any other problem?
No, ma'am.
All right, so I'm logging this session out. All right, if anybody faces any problem, you can contact me directly. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Devesh sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.